Hello, friends. Welcome to this episode of Feng Shui Living. Today's episode is going to be a little different, but wow, am I ever excited. I'm going to be sharing with you something really special. One of my amazing, most beloved friends invited me on her podcast. My friend Jill Herman, who is a trauma-informed coach and the host of the incredibly successful Be You podcast, invited me on her podcast. We talked about my work in her home. It was so fun. Of course, it was like just girlfriends gabbing, right? I had a ball, but we share stories, we share aha moments, we share a couple mind-blowing moments as we talked through when I did a feng shui assessment and an energetic space clearing on her home. It was such an amazing episode. I really wanted to share it with you. I think you will get so much information. You'll also learn a little more about what it's like to work together and how I implement things. And you'll also get little nuggets throughout the episode that you can implement into your home. So make sure you listen to the entire episode. It is a bit longer. You know, my episodes are typically 20, 30, 40 minutes long, and this one is much longer. But make sure you don't miss it at all the way to the end, okay? So a little bit about Jill. Now, I will put links in the show notes to her podcast. You have to go to listen to some other episodes. They're so good. I'll also put all the links in the newsletter. If you get my weekly newsletter, you'll get everything. You will be connected if you want to connect with her and work with her. She does some amazing events, including her plot twist online experience, which, wow, I just did it in March. Oh my goodness. I didn't realize some blocks that I had that in my growth, in moving forward in my business and in my life. And in this plot twist, we really were able, in a safe, comfortable way, we were able to work through some of this. And I grew by leaps and bounds in one little month, and I never expected it. Anyway, the reason I'm telling you this is because she's having another plot twist coming up. And I know she'll do more plot twists like this, but the one in May, I want to share about the one in May that's coming up. That's her next one. This is specifically geared towards moms. If you are a mom, if you are overwhelmed, stressed out, feeling lost, then this plot twist for moms only is really for you. So I will put links to learn more information about that in the show notes and the newsletter as well. One more thing, I guess, about a little housekeeping is if you watch on YouTube, there won't be a video, but there will be photos of our smiling faces so you can see that, because this is an audio only episode. Friends, I hope you enjoy this longer episode. It is worth listening to. It is amazing. And if you have any questions about anything that Jill does, anything that I implemented into her home, or you want to dive in and work together, let me know. All right, let's get into the episode. Welcome to Feng Shui Living, the podcast designed for busy women who want to de-stress, live with intention, and create a home that truly supports their well-being. Each week, I'll bring you practical tips, insightful ideas, and simple strategies to enhance both your home and your life. Let's get started.
Hey, it's Jill. Welcome back to Be You Podcast. If you're a first-time listener, I'm so happy you're here, and you are going to love this conversation. So Lisa Morton was introduced to me by a couple of friends who are an architect and an interior designer. I was thinking about taking this podcast space that I'm actually speaking to you from now and transferring it into a walk-in closet, believe it or not. So as we talked about that, I realized it wasn't the right time. Something felt off. It wasn't the right fit. So I told her, let's just scratch it and we'll revisit it later. I realize now that the reason we were actually brought together was much bigger than that she was going to become one of my dearest friends. So after being friends with her for almost a year now, I said to her, you know what? I've never hired you to do what you do best, which is working with Feng Shui and doing space clearings and holistic design. I've never hired you to do that for me, and I love interior design. I had no idea what I was getting myself into. I had no idea how powerful it was. You guys, this is one of those things that I'm holding back right now just because it would be a lot for me to really, really, really share with you how strongly I feel about this. And in this introduction, I just want to make it about Lisa. You'll hear in the conversation how I feel about it. But I just want to at least say this. This has changed my life. This has changed my life. What she did in my home changed my life. It may sound like it's really hard to believe. How in the world do we connect those dots? I get it. In this conversation, Lisa explains how in the world that happened. How do you make changes in the home and have it affect your health and affect how you feel and your attitude and your energy and even your career, et cetera? How in the world does that happen? So let me tell you about Lisa Morton. Over the past 20 years, Lisa has worked in the field of design, and she's created and transformed countless residences, commercial spaces, and even designed several luxury private aircraft interiors. She is an interior designer, an allied member of ASID. I'm not sure how to pronounce that. She's a certified master teacher of interior alignment and Feng Shui. She's a certified master teacher of 7-star blessing space clearings. She's a medicine wheel Feng Shui practitioner, member of International Feng Shui Guild. She's a Reiki master and a yoga instructor. She's a dog mom. She now lives in Indiana. She's a Hoosier like me now, transplanted from Ohio. And she is so gifted and talented and so highly trained and such an expert in this field. I was just at an event tonight and I couldn't stop telling people about what she's done. And you know me, I love to share with you anything that has changed my life for the better. We bring experts on to talk about everything under the sun, which is under the umbrella of being your authentic self, but finding who that is, how to really, really find who that is, and then fully self-express. Well, the work that Lisa did with me on and in my home, which in turn was on and inside of me, my internal home, is something I will forever be grateful for. Highly recommend her, highly endorse her. And I genuinely hope that some of you reach out to her after this episode and do a little work with her, and you'll know what I'm talking about. So here's my conversation with the amazing Lisa Morton.
There is nothing more inspiring than a woman being unapologetically herself.
The answers are all in your heart.
She's waiting for you to set her free.
Welcome to Be You Podcast. I'm Jill Herman, and I am so glad you're here. I was broke, insecure, and craved approval. But with grit, hustle, and sacrifice, I still built a successful multi-million-dollar business. 10 years in, burnout, I slowed down and looked inward. In that silence, I discovered that the same level of success could have come to me with much less effort and so much more joy. That's when I threw out the expectations of the world and chose to unbecome every single thing I thought I was supposed to be. And the real me was uncaged. It was far from easy. And in this podcast, I'll offer my entire journey as a roadmap so that if you're ready, you can finally be you. Okay, I am sitting here with Lisa Morton. Lisa, welcome to Be You Podcast.
Thank you so much for having me, Jill.
And you're in person.
Yes.
I've only done one other interview in person in this home. So we are recording in the infamous to the Be You podcast community, the goddess room, otherwise known as the womb room, also known as the ovary office, named that by my painter that was painting in here. He's like, it's awkward standing in your womb. Can I call it the ovary office?
That's hilarious.
So yeah, this is where I podcast. Isn't it cool in here? It's pink everywhere. And
I love it. And I love the color drenching, the ceiling, all the trim, everything. The door is that beautiful pink color.
Yeah, I love it.
Feels cozy.
Isn't it cozy?
Yeah.
I'm glad you approve as the interior designer. So we could talk for so long about interior design, right? But I really want to focus on what you've introduced me to, which is all things Feng Shui. And I don't even know that much. The listeners will hear my take on it. But I'm really excited to introduce them to you and to your expertise and to a whole world of something that I knew existed, but I didn't really care to know much about it, which is how I always just trust timing of everything. So maybe this is the time for other people who are listening to this podcast to get curious about it, because it's not just something I'm interested in. So I have found out recently through like human design and other things that apparently I'm inherently designed to be someone who teaches. Like whatever I learn, I want to teach it. And I've been that way my whole life. So I love doing that. Yet I'm not going to repeat everything I come across, right? But everything I've learned through you has been, as you have experienced with me, something I'm so into now and so excited about. And it's tangible, even though it seems completely intangible. And it has shifted my life, like to the point where if I could sell this, it would be one of my sponsors, where I would sell Feng Shui and I would sell these clearings and these other things you do. So let's just go back to the beginning, though. It's a curious story about how did an interior designer who was designing the interior of multi-million dollar jets get into Feng Shui and some of the other work you're doing. Maybe give them a little bit of the story that I've heard already.
Oh my goodness. Well, here I grew up on a farm in Iowa. And then I got this beautiful opportunity. I went to design school, started doing design, and then I got this amazing job designing jet interiors. And I got to travel the world. I got to meet outrageous people, use materials I never would have got to touch or work on or work with. And I was so fortunate to do this. I felt so lucky to get this cool job. It was my dream job, right? And then it just started taking a toll. I got to a place where my mental health was kind of in the toilet. I was really, really struggling. And I spent, it was well over a year of therapy. I started yoga. I started doing meditation. I altered my diet. I did all those things you're supposed to do. And I got to a point where I did decide to leave the job just because I needed something new. At the same time, I started exploring other alternative healing modalities. And I started studying Reiki. I became a Reiki master. And I learned, I'm like, wow, this is powerful. The energy of your body has energy. So I'm like, how can I transfer this to your home? I knew the home could be magical. I knew that there was more you could do to a space beyond just making it pretty and functional and everything. So I started exploring this holistic approach to interior spaces, right? And there wasn't a lot of training at the time or anything. I just read a million books. And then I started studying Feng Shui. And this became huge. I say Feng Shui transformed my healing process. It gave me something that I didn't know I needed. I just looked at a space as beautiful, picking out the materials that were going to work together, that were going to complement one another, right? Picking the rug that matches the pillow, that works with the light fixture. This was a totally different approach. With Feng Shui, we look at the space with 5 elements, not a blue fabric, not a pink wall color. We look at it with a different set of eyes. And that was just transformative. It really just changed my day to day, actually. It was really helpful in my healing. So then I was like, wow, how can I do this for other people?
So you learned about Feng Shui and then you applied it to your own home, you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then you felt the effects of that in your life. And then you said, okay, I need to do this.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. So then I studied one-on-one with a woman 2012, 2013, and then dove in and did my first certification course in 2014. And it's just been this beautiful experience implementing and practicing this work for, the past 10 years. I did more training, more certifications, and actually, as of this past summer, I became a master teacher of interior alignment Feng Shui. So now I can teach and certify other people how to do this work and help so many other people.
I know that. And it's so amazing. And you have a school that you've started.
I do. I started Elevated Living School.
Maybe I'll do that. I literally could see myself doing that. It's so funny. I didn't expect to even say that. But, I've said on this show many times in the past that the part of interior design that I would never want to learn, even pardon the phrase, but gun to my head, wouldn't do it, is all of the measuring and the technical stuff. My brain doesn't work that way. But to go into a space and help someone figure out what do they love, what makes them come alive, what colors make them happy, that would be so rewarding and fun for me. Anyway, that was a little bunny trail I didn't expect to go down. But so let's do this. Let's do almost like a tutorial.
Okay.
Because I'll be learning along with the listener, even though I've been a client of yours. A lot of people don't really understand what Feng Shui is. And here's how I thought of it before. I pictured an old Asian woman telling me, have a plant here, turn your chair this direction, whatever. Well, there is some of that. I had no idea that it was this broad and this deep and this detailed and this powerful. I had no idea. So how would you describe it? What would you say is Feng Shui?
So Feng Shui, of course, it's morphed and changed, right? It was first documented over 4,000 years ago in southern China, and they lived on mountains and huts and everything. But we live in a different world today. We are using your computer, your sound system, right? We have electricity. We live in a very different world. We're in cities and apartment buildings and things. So naturally, like anything, it's going to morph and shift over time. And it has. There's different schools or sects of Feng Shui. It does all base on arrangement of your space to promote balance. No matter what school, what sect of Feng Shui you practice, that is the goal, to create balance. And balance in your space then brings balance to your body and your life. I specifically practice interior alignment. And this is a really cool approach to Feng Shui that implements a few other aspects beyond just the traditional study and practice of Feng Shui. We bring in an intuitive approach. My intuition, I've always been a very intuitive person, but I knew this specific style was for me because I wanted to grow that. And I have, and it's been transformative in my work and in my own life. We also get into some aspects of healthy homes. Denise Lin actually created interior alignment. She's this amazing woman. She's written, I don't know how many books for Hay House and does just amazing workshops and seminars. And she has a very interesting story. I grew up with her grandmother who is Cherokee, so learned a lot of Native American traditions, and then went on to live around the world with various different tribes throughout the world. Wow. And learned how they live and learned what makes them feel safe and comfortable in their spaces and how, rituals and sacred practices. And so we implement a lot of that into this work. And something that I really love that's part of interior alignment is called the synchro alignment technique. And that's actually a guided meditation where we take someone to experience their home in a different manner. So we might sit down and, I'll take you on this guided meditation and we'll visit your home, maybe 5 years in the future. What does your home have to tell you?
Oh my gosh, we have to do this. I didn't know you did that.
We did a very brief version the first time I worked with you.
But, we did.
Yeah, we were sitting in this room.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Okay.
But we can do a deep exploration into things your home needs. I can lead you on a journey where we explore the spirit of your home. And this is one of my favorites. So my last home, I had this energy of this man. His name was Lumberjack John. He looked like Paul Bunyan. My home now has this energy. Her name is Inya, and she looks like Tinkerbell.
Okay, my question is, are you tapping into the energy of the home, or you're saying you're creating that energy?
You're tapping into the energy of the home.
And so what you get is what you get?
I had a good...
You don't throw a fit?
Yeah, I had a good friend who got the Count from Sesame Street.
And you just work with it?
You just work with it.
Oh, Lord.
There's something to learn from whatever you get.
Oh my gosh, we have to do this.
It's amazing. And some people don't get fully that deep of a experience. It might just be a color.
Yeah.
It might be a word, right? Maybe it's a specific word that's meaningful to them that represents their home.
Yeah, depending on how open they are, It's kind of like when my husband and I both did breath work.
Yeah.
And I was like, there was this Native American man and he was sitting at my feet and he had this thing and he said this. And I went on and on and on and on. And I go, how was yours? And he goes, I think I saw a grasshopper. It's just no offense, right? We're all just different.
Totally.
And so he just was more closed off.
Yeah.
My channel's a little more open.
Yeah.
So, okay. So you're saying, I want to make sure I'm learning right, that Feng Shui, repeat the line that you said, is about the energy.
It's about aligning
energy
in your home.
Okay.
To create balance in your home.
Which then creates balance in your internal home, your body,
in your internal
life.
home. I love that. That's
okay. And I get that sounds so woo-woo and bizarre to some people. It's a concept that's very difficult to grasp. Our audience is so open and our audience is curious and they're not seeing this through the lens of judgment. They still might be saying like, what are you even talking about? We're going to get into at the end of our conversation, which might end up being a part 2, a second episode, my experience, right? Where I'll share that. But before we get to that, just a reminder, to our listeners that everything is made of energy. Everything. And so for us to think that our home isn't affecting us when we're immersed and living in our home, we're here more than anywhere else, is a really, I'm going to just say kind of maybe naive way of looking at life, because how could it not? If you walk into a room, if you've ever felt, oh, something feels off, or, oh, I don't feel welcome here, but no one said you're not welcome. Or you're somewhere, I'm going to use a term that's been used so many times, a dark alley, and it's not because it's a dark alley you feel scared, but in this particular dark alley, you're like, I think I need to turn around. That's feeling energy.
Exactly.
And
exactly.
So, yeah.
I
What would
get
you
so
say
many
about
people
that?
they just think of their home as a box. They walk in, they crash at the end of the day. And I'm like, no, your box is not only supporting you at that time, it's telling your body who to be tomorrow. It's manifestations. Like, what do you want for tomorrow? What do you want for your future? It's not just walk in and crash at the end of the day. It's really be intentional with everything you bring in, right? Because everything is energy, from your sofa to your, end table to the trinkets to the artwork. Everything has energy. So be very mindful of things you bring in. Does it lift your energy or does it make your energy drop? Do you look at it and you feel your shoulders drop and you can take a big breath? Or is it, oh my gosh, there's that box I have to go through again? That's very triggering. Because even though that box might be sitting in the corner for 6 months and you may not really look at it, your body is still reacting to that box being there because you know what's inside of it. Something you have to sort through, right?
I'm so glad you're saying this, because it's then a reminder to everyone that it's not just about like aesthetics. It's not just about the colors and what painting you have or what table you have. What you just said is really interesting. And I had this experience myself when we looked at my husband's office, that, that box of stuff or the things I have to right now in my closet, in my upstairs, in my bedroom closet. One thing you sensed was you said there are things that don't belong or need to, something like that. And I was like, I think she's off on that one. And then I remembered and I looked under my cabinet and I have 4 boxes I haven't returned of things I ordered and I kept forgetting to return. Then I'm probably way past the 30-day mark. And that, yes. So even though I wasn't seeing it, it was still affecting my energy, which affects your mental health, which affects everything.
Definitely. And sometimes it's one thing. I tell my clients, don't worry about decluttering your entire home, because decluttering and cleaning your home is so important, because that helps us, that prepares the home when we then implement any type of feng shui adjustment. But don't stress about decluttering everything. Sometimes it's that one intentional thing that's standing in your way that you can be very mindful and set an intention to remove it with care and let it go. Because letting things go, we know letting things go, it allows more wonderful things to come into our lives.
Yeah, like that one junk drawer.
Or maybe it's something symbolic. I had a vase that I got for a wedding gift. It just had an energy to it. I kind of knew something about it, the history of it. I didn't love it, but I hung on to it because it was a wedding gift, because I'm supposed to hang on to all my wedding gifts. I had it for years. And then finally I'm like, this is not for me. But then I found someone who loved it. I'm like, here you go. So, if you have something that maybe isn't lifting your energy, warming your heart, making you feel good, pass it on. Maybe it isn't just necessarily like heavy energy, very symbolic to you, but maybe it's just something, right? A vase, a lamp that you don't really care for. Pass it on. Only have things in your home that you love. Like, be mindful to only fill your home with those things that really warm your heart. It needs to be deserving to be in your home.
That's a rule of thumb for me. And it's super important. Every single thing in my home, I really like, or I love everything. I didn't used to live that way. For someone who isn't as in tune to that, or they honestly just don't really care that much. They're like, look, I don't care about interior design. Everything in my home is fine. Like, it doesn't bother me. I'm just neutral. It's all neutral. How could you help them? What would you have them look at in their home if they do feel just kind of like everything's pretty neutral? I have a couple of things I love, but I don't really care that much. Would it be more about like clutter and organization?
Clutter and organization. Get rid of clutter. Go through. Start at one end of your kitchen and go drawer by drawer, cabinet by cabinet if you want. You can make this a huge thing. It's a huge opportunity to reset. You can work on home organization. That makes our energy feel good. Those pantries with the labels and the bins and everything, it's like, HGTV type pantry. That makes us feel good when it's organized and it feels put together well. If you don't want to get into this more, well, we will call it a woo version of approaching your home, you can just do those mindful things. Clean your home with intention. Keep it nice and tidy as you're sweeping the floor. Do it with, a good feeling in your heart, and turn on some good music and almost make it a ceremony. It's just an easy way to approach your home without going too deep.
And you were saying to me before we recorded something I thought was super interesting about why it's a really good idea to keep your floor clean.
Oh, sure. If you think about being grounded, and we're all so busy. We have so many things going on, and we're always looking, how can I be more grounded, more focused, more centered? And one of my favorite things to do is to sweep the floor. I tell my clients, sweep the floor. Even if you have a cleaning lady come in once a week, I want you to be intentional and sweep that floor. Because when you have, I don't know, I have 2 dogs, 2 big dogs, they have fur. Sometimes there's food crumbs, who knows, dirt on the floor. When you have that stuff on the floor and then you're walking across it, not only is it kind of not very nice to walk across, but there's that debris between your feet and the earth. And when you can remove that and have more of a connection of your feet against the earth, you'll just feel better. It's easy. Sweep the floor. 10 minutes. So Jill, I do want to explain, because we didn't get too clear into this. So interior alignment encompasses 2 different things, and that is the instinctive feng shui and the energetic space clearings. So it's really 2 parts that create this, powerful practice. And then synchro alignment, whether I'm doing energetic space clearing or the feng shui approach that, I always implement the synchro alignment process to all my clients.
And what is that?
That's the guided meditation.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay. So, all right, let's stay on the feng shui side for a minute. I cannot wait to talk about this space clearing you did on my house. Like, I cannot wait to talk about it. But I do want to stay here because I also had you do the whole feng shui, I don't know what you call it. Consultation.
Yeah.
Where tell them what you did with my house and how that works, because I still need to print everything off and look at like the grid. But just that little bit that I learned from that one session, I'm blown away and I see my house so differently.
Sure. So we kind of talked about those quick, easy things if you don't want to get too deep. Clutter clearing, organization. But then here's the next step is getting into a feng shui, because I feel like when you do a feng shui consultation and dive deep and get your home looked at a deeper level, it can almost feel scientific. So it doesn't necessarily have to go super woo. It can feel, because we use black and white things. We use the 5 element system, the fire, water, wood, earth, and metal. We use a Bagua map. This Bagua map is this ancient tool that it goes through these 9 different energy centers of your home. And each energy center connects to a different aspect of your life, like love and relationships. I've worked with a lot of people on, hey, Lisa, I really want to find that perfect person this year. Like, this is really my goal. What can I do? So we set up their space to find that perfect person. And, we do pretty well. I've gotten a lot of women married or at least engaged over the years.
I love it. And tell them quickly about the example of the artist who was either not selling paintings, there was something going on, and you did this with her gallery, and then
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Actually, a woman who opened this amazing gallery and was just struggling and just stagnant. And we actually went in and arranged the entire space to follow the Bagua map, all of the artwork. And there was even jewelry, handmade jewelry. Some artists had brought pieces in. And some of it was also very intentional. There was family members. Her daughter brought in pieces and her close friends brought in pieces. So we were very intentional of placing them and using this Bagua map throughout her gallery. Every piece of art had a perfect, beautiful location that we placed with intention. And oh my goodness, the gallery is doing amazing. So happy.
Yeah. And she contacted you after that saying,
oh, yeah. Yeah.
things are flying off the shelf.
Yes.
Okay. So someone who's listened to this show long enough knows that I'm not behaving the way I normally do in an interview. And that's because I'm so excited to get to the other part. And I don't want to dismiss what we're talking about because it's so important.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm a little antsy. But go ahead.
The Feng Shui work can be so powerful if you're going through something. I work with a lot of people going through divorce, through illness. I mean, I had a woman, I want to share a quick story. I had a woman years ago that this was back probably, I'd only been doing this work a couple years. I was morphing from the traditional interior design Lisa to this holistic Feng Shui design Lisa. And I was actually questioning myself at the time, is this what I'm meant to be doing? And so then I get this call. So this woman invited me into her home. And we're sitting there at the dining table. She's looking me in the eye. And I was like, tell me more about your project. What can I help you with? And she looked at me and she said, Lisa, I'm dying. I need you to help me set up my home so my children and my husband can go on living once I'm gone.
Oh,
and I'll be honest, I had this feeling inside like I froze. I'd never had anyone say anything even close to, I mean, I've gotten into a lot of heavy discussions with clients, right? Going through divorce, illness things, but this was so different. And I had to collect myself and I was like, okay. And we talked more about it. She'd been through cancer and this was her third round and she was tired of fighting. And she's like, this is it. This is just the way it's supposed to go. But I need you to help me. So we did a couple of different things. You know, we looked at it from a design place, right? Because she needed new carpet, needed some new furniture. But we did it very intentionally. We brought in those 5 elements. We set it up to feel very grounding and nurturing and safe and comfortable for her family. And then we implemented a few things also so that when she was gone, that her family could go on living, because she was very adamant. She wanted them to go on living their life once she was gone.
okay. Like what? What did you do? Tell me what you mean by that.
I'm very intentional with artwork. Things we brought in. We set up a collage wall of family photos. We had all these beautiful family photos and they were just sitting in a box. I'm like, let's frame these. Let's make an important wall where they can celebrate the fun you guys had together. We brought in some wood element. So the wood element is all about regrowth and renewal and revitalization and kind of moving forward. So we brought in a bit of that, but we focused a lot on the earth element. It's about grounding, stability, that sense of just care. We brought in a lot of textural things, textural blankets and rugs to kind of envelop them. So if they're having a rough day, they can curl up on the sofa and grab that blanket and snuggle with a pillow and just sink and settle in.
Mm-hmm.
So that was transformative. And it was also my sign. I'm driving home that day with tears in my eyes thinking, wow, for the universe to connect us, this says I am meant to be doing this. And it just took off from there. And I've had so many amazing opportunities like that to help people through those difficult times, but also to help people through amazing times. Setting up their brand new business. I've been able to design a lot of yoga studios over the years. We lay out things so that people flow in and they're excited and they're energized when they need to be energized. But then we have ways to bring the energy down when they need a quiet yin class.
Okay, let me interrupt. I want to have you go through some of the basic principles of Feng Shui because you taught me some things. I'm like, I never knew that. Like I had a mirror right by my front door and you're like, can you please take that down? I was like, but I like it.
I love you, Jill, but you got to take it down.
Yeah. So maybe, I don't know. I don't
Sure.
want to put up a number, 5, let's say, but whatever, some basic principles of Feng Shui. So they get a feel for what you're talking about. Because when you talk about elements, causing, grounding, whatever, it also can be a little intangible.
Sure.
So what are some sort of rules of thumb that they can take away?
I have a lot of easy things you can do, right? You can go home and implement these things today. So one is I want you to focus on your front door. In Feng Shui, the front door is considered the mouth of qi, or the mouth of energy, where energy comes into your space. So we want to make sure the door is used. So many of us pull in the garage door closes, we walk in that side door. We never use our front door. So if that is you, that's okay. I just want you to come up with a plan to use the front door. Maybe that's walking the dog every day. Maybe that's using the front door to go out and get the mail. Get that door opening and closing.
Okay, if someone's not using the front door, what does that do?
It causes stagnation. It doesn't bring any new opportunities. Our front door, that mouth of qi, brings in new opportunities towards us.
Okay.
And then think about, we consider the back doors and the windows, the eyes and ears, right? And that lets us release things that we no longer need in our lives. So we want to bring it in through the front door. It's a powerful space. If you're looking to start a new routine or take something on, you're looking for a new job, focus on that front door. Make sure it works really well. Make sure the lock functions well. Make sure it's well lit. Get a pretty new rug, a new wreath. Bring things right inside to make it feel elevated. Bring in pretty colors, things that make you feel really good. So when someone walks in your door, they're not just kind of walking in the door, right? They're walking in the door and having an experience. Jill, I will say your front door is excellent. You have beautiful decorative items that draw you in. You have aromatherapy right there. I mean, it's an experience when you walk in across that threshold into your home.
Thank you. I will tell you that the aromatherapy was added after working with you. Everything else I get credit for. But okay, so why did you have me take the mirror down? Explain that to them. And also the fact that I live on a pond. Okay, so the back of my house is what we're looking out all the time. There's a huge window because we're always looking out on a pond. It's hard to explain. When you pull up the driveway, everybody, to Jill's house, you're pulling up to the back of my house, even though it on the street should be the front of my house. It's like a lake cottage, right? So the back of my home faces you when you're looking at my house. Then you drive around to the front door, which to us feels like our back door.
But I want you to focus on that being your front door. That is symbolic, the front door. And that's so powerful. So that mirror right inside, sometimes I'll see this. And I know sometimes us girls, we want to fix our hair before we head out the door, right? But this actually just sends that energy directly back out the door. So you never want to have, it's not good to have a mirror directly inside your front door. So when you walk in the door, it's one of the first things you see. Okay. So that front door is so, so important. Oftentimes, I also see stairwells directly at the front door. That straight shot of stairs that goes up. The issue with this is the energy, instead of going down a hallway, which oftentimes these hallways are kind of dark and narrow. So instead of energy going and filling the main floor, it shoots straight up to the second floor.
So what do you do if you have that and you can't change the stairs?
Well, I actually just worked with a gal yesterday on this, and I told her to focus on keeping the energy on the main floor, bringing it in. So think about energy moving like water. It comes in the front door and it flows down, wherever direction, the path of least resistance. So have great artwork on the walls. Beautiful artwork that draws you in, something that sucks you in, maybe some beautiful pieces of furniture, a beautiful runner, a rug going down the hallway to suck you down. And then at the very end of the hall, she had a dining table. I'm like, I want you to have a gorgeous bouquet of flowers, a really cool centerpiece to draw you down. Also, make sure that hallway is well lit, it's light and bright. You can have a mirror down the hallway, just not right at that foyer, that entrance, but lighten and brighten the hallway as much as you can. So that's just the number one place to look at. Number two is I tell people to focus on the center of their home. The centermost area of your home, when looking at the Bagua map, it connects to every other Gua. So every other of these 9 energy centers that connect to your life. So by zhuzhing up the center of your home, you're affecting all the rest of your home. So it's easy, right? So go in there and give it some love. it can be simple. It's vacuuming. It's, making sure the light bulbs aren't spent. It's making sure it looks pretty, making sure the plants aren't dead, right? Adding a fresh bouquet of flowers. And a lot of times I go into homes and it's a stairwell. It's a pantry. What do you do there? Well, you have to get creative. I actually had a pantry in a home we lived in. So I focused on making sure we had healthy food in there. All the food kind of represented abundance, like good quality food that felt nourishing, that we loved, that we enjoyed eating. You don't want to have a Cheerios box with like 3 crumbs left because that doesn't represent abundance there. So toss it, start fresh.
And I remember you also saying throw away anything that's expired. That's obvious, but many of us don't. Like there are all these reels about this that once your kids leave the nest, they come back to your house, and it's a running joke like all over TikTok that you go back to your parents' house and you go in the pantry or the fridge and you're going to find things from like 8 years ago expired. That was me. Like spices, things in the back of my pantry that I thought I might use for cooking that I hadn't. Oh yeah, years and years expired. So and that's clearly not sending a good message.
Exactly. If it's a bathroom, keep the bathroom functioning really well. A lot of times in Feng Shui, when we have something that's broken, it amplifies broken energy. So you might find, that light bulb is burnt out. And then the next day, oh my gosh, my washer just broke. And then the next day, oh my gosh, right? This broken energy can amplify quickly. So especially if the centermost area of your home is a bathroom, because bathrooms often have drippy faucets. Maybe the tub drips, maybe there's a leak. So always be mindful of the bathroom. If it's here, make sure it functions really well. It's nice and tidy. The mirror is sparkling clean. The towels are pretty and fluffy. Really lift the energy here. So those are my 2 main favorite things to focus on. And then we can dig deeper, depending on your goals, because I always start out by asking my clients what their goals are. And I always push them because they will come back. And they're like, I just wanted to feel really good and feel really balanced. And I'm like, no, let's go deeper. What do you really want? Do you want a new red convertible? Do you want to make $1 million this year? Do you want to find the love of your life? Maybe you want to start your dream business. We can do that by implementing cues throughout our home.
It's so cool. Okay, going back to rules of thumb though, tell them why they always need to have their toilet seat down.
Oh gosh. Well, the designer in me just thinks it's not nice to walk in and look at toilet.
No, but there's a real reason. Tell them.
There is, yeah, because literally the energy just sucks down. We have this energy that comes in our front door and fills our spaces, and the toilets just suck the energy down. It's very similar to, we had to talk about your fireplace. If you have an unused fireplace, it has the same energy. It just sucks the energy out, not in a good way, right? We want to release things, but we don't want it just escaping our home.
So you were saying to me that in the warm months, when you're not using your fireplace, you should clean it out and then put something in there like flowers or candles, real or artificial, twinkle lights, something to, is this right?
Yeah,
like
to keep the energy.
Mimic that there's something happening there.
Exactly.
Right?
We just need some sort of energy moving, something happening in this space so it's not dead.
And this is the
stagnant
shit that sounds cray. I get it. But I'm telling you, what did I tell you happened for me? Like I've never cleaned out a fireplace. I take like the old wood chunks out and maybe some, but I've never I vacuumed it all out. I wiped it down with a cloth, and then I took artificial candles, but they're very real looking, and arranged them in there, and I closed it, and I immediately sent you a picture, and I was like, okay, I'm convinced. I am right now a fan, because I'm telling you guys, the room felt different. The fireplace didn't just look different. The room felt different. And then tell them, for my home, what center is that for me?
That's your wealth and abundance center.
Right. So let's connect that to a business that we have, which is just like we are just pouring money into this business every month. And then I changed that. And it's not like the next day things change in the business, but the way we felt about it really did change a little bit.
Yeah. And things will change. You'll see.
Yes.
I always tell people, give it 6 weeks.
Yeah.
So maybe you want to
time.
go home and implement one of these things and move the mirror from your front door. Give it 6 weeks and see what shifts in your life. You could even journal. I have a lot of people, I have them to journal and write down how they're feeling about things, how they're feeling about their goals. Come back in 6 weeks and it is transformative. You don't think about how these little things can make a difference, but they 100% do. And the more intention and the more, time you can take to be very methodical. And, I say do everything. Like every time I'm cleaning, every time I'm moving, rearranging my furniture, I have a candle lit. I make a ceremony. I turn on pretty music. By doing these things, you're infusing your home with this energy, what you want. And it can be such a beautiful, beautiful process to connect with your home.
Yeah. I mean, I'm telling you, the work that we did with this, with my home, I so get that it sounds like such a leap to say we did that and then these things happened, but I am always, always honest. I have no reason to exaggerate this. I can't explain it, and some of it is intangible. I just feel different, but some of it's very tangible, which I'm going to share in a second. So for a couple of things you said when you looked at my home, we're still on the Feng Shui topic, guys. We haven't gotten to the space clearing part. So when she looked at my home, she looked at, let's say, what I call the sunroom, which is really not a sunroom. It's like the hearth room. That's where we have our
Which I think is a whole nother interesting
Isn't
topic.
it interesting?
How you call it a room. I would never call it a sunroom.
Yeah, we've always called it the sunroom. And it's this oddly shaped room. It's always driven me crazy. I didn't speak up when we were getting help from an interior designer who was helping us with the drawings for how we would do the ceiling. To be totally transparent, once I saw it, I was like, I don't know that I really like that. I was a different person back then. And I just said, okay, because they know more than me. And it's busy. We've got a lot of busyness, a lot of pattern in the wood ceiling. Then we've got the brick fireplace. Then we've got the wood flooring. There's just a lot going on. There are 8 windows in there, and it's not a big room at all. And it's shaped, if you picture I would say, like a horseshoe kind of shape. That's how I would describe it.
Kind of rounded.
Yeah, I'm just trying to let them have a mental picture. So I had in there 3 different times I've changed that room. I've painted the walls white. I have now wallpapered them with this really cool snake wallpaper, which most people would hate, but I love. I want to change the ceiling at some point. We're just not budgeting for that right now. But I changed the furniture twice, and that room has always felt off. And I thought it was just the furniture.
Well, I remember the first time I came here.
Yeah.
And that was the first thing you told me. And I'm thinking, and we were just talking about a few design things in a totally different area of the home, but we just walked around and I saw this space. And I can look at your floor plan. I do a lot of virtual work because your floor plan can tell me so much. But just looking at the layout, where this was, I could tell so much about what's going on. Not only was it rounded, but it has if you look at the shape with the roof, it looks in the shape of a flame, of fire.
Oh my gosh, it does.
Yeah.
Because the roof is, the ceiling's like pitched.
Yeah. It kind of has like a turret roof, right?
Lisa.
And then the snake wallpaper, which also represents a fire element. You had the hide covering the bench, which is a fire element. You had the fireplace, which was then stagnant inside, which was interesting because you had nothing going on. Taper candles, more fire, these angular shapes all around, right? From all the woodwork, all these sharp lines, which we call poison arrows. We don't want all these sharp lines coming at our body for long periods of time. Then also the furniture was angular. I mean, I'm standing there thinking, wow.
And you wonder why I said I hated the room.
I know.
I didn't just hate the room, aesthetically. I told you I never went in that room.
I'm not surprised.
I didn't want to walk in there. I felt weird in there. I'm also, as I said, very sensitive. I can notice some things that maybe not everybody would notice. Now it makes sense. But I would say to you, I feel like something's jabbing me. I feel like all the lines are cutting into my energy field.
Oh, exactly.
And I just felt like I was being cut. I can't explain it. Hated the freaking room. But I'm like, well, I can't change the ceiling now. I'll try this. And nothing worked. In the report, you said, will you remove the coffee table? And I was like, bro, I love that coffee table. I bought it just for this room. It's gorgeous. It's marble. It has these 2 sides that come out. But I told you I'm very teachable. When I am in the presence of someone who's an expert, I am teachable. I surrender my ego and I say, you tell me what to do. Now, if at some point it goes against my gut so much, then I'll do what I want. But everything you told me to do, I did, like immediately. Remember, you're like, you're such a good student. So I cleared out the fireplace, cleaned it out, took that coffee table out of there, brought a rounded, because you said something round, coffee table from our basement that was like a $50 cheap, beer had been spilled on it, bubbling up, fake wood, laminate, whatever. But I brought it up there. You said, put a plant. I put a plant right in the middle, and I took 2 of the chairs out. So I just had 2 chairs in there. And I sent you a picture and I said, I want to be in here all day long. The ceiling hasn't changed. All the other lines are still there, but you helped me. I took the candles out.
Just bring balance.
Yes, you said to bring pottery in there. I happen to have a round piece of black pottery.
And the square shapes above the mantle. You
yes.
did that. You were the perfect student.
I did everything you said. And literally, guys, I'm saying this too because you have to really go all in to see the results. It's like if someone tells you counting macros works and you're like, fine, I'm going to count my macros at breakfast. But then don't do it. It's not going to work. I went all in and I'm like, I'm going to give it a few months and see how I feel. I immediately felt different. But I also didn't spend any money.
Yeah.
I
shop your own home. That's
I
what I
literally
tell people.
Yes, I went into another room and I found that round black piece of pottery from Target. And I loved the shelf that was on. I was like, shit, I actually like it here. Never mind. I'm going to do what she said. And I just put it in that room, put some old books in there, took the candles down. And I am telling you, that room feels so different. And then it gave us the inspiration. My husband has a previous company where he owns the building still, and we still own the furniture in there. And he's like, I could ask the new company if they mind if I take a couple pieces of furniture out, because hardly anyone goes into the office. I went in there and you said to bring blue in there. Well, coincidentally, blue is one of my favorite colors. Blue's all over my house, but it wasn't in that room, except there were little splashes of the carpet. And I had a vision of having a blue couch in there, but we decided we weren't going to spend any money. Anyway, put the blue couch in there, put a little bit elevated, rounded kind of coffee table in there. And we both say it's becoming like our favorite spot in the house.
I love that. I love that because also in your wealth and abundance area, you want to inspire this feeling of like wealth and luxury, right? So those colors of maybe purple, and I know you didn't really want to do purple, but think of royal blue. Royal blue feels luxurious and royalty. So it's just perfect to put in there. But here, I want to say this, that I get people that love their space and they don't want to change it, but I love everything about it. I love the high energy fuchsia bedroom that I have. And I'm like, okay, but I want you to, we can go back there someday. Okay, so here's the story. I just worked with a woman and she's struggling with anxiety and her bedroom is bright pink, bright fuchsia, leopard print. She loves it. But I'm like, here's the thing. Think of this almost as like an elimination diet. We're going to reset the energy of your body because you need to be able to function day to day. It's not worth your health and wellness to have a cute bedroom, just the way you want. So let's experiment. Let's make some tweaks, make it more peaceful and calming. And then after 6 weeks, if you want to bring in maybe 1 leopard throw pillow, experiment, see how your nervous system feels in this space. Maybe it's okay. Maybe you can bring in a couple more pink pillows and bring those back in and just see what your body needs. And then you'll know, right? If you need to tone down and bring in more earth element, more soothing, calming colors, or if you're okay and I want to add some more fuchsia.
Has she changed the bedroom yet?
Not back. No, we're still in that peaceful, calming space right now. So just trying to keep it calm and restful.
She did. She took all the...
she got rid of all the crazy
And does she feel different?
Yes.
Of course. I thought, honestly, when you described it, I was like, oh God, a bedroom like that would make me feel like I couldn't rest.
I couldn't
relax.
You don't realize it. You don't realize how your body feels in a space sometimes until you make a shift. And then your shoulders drop and you're like, I can take a bigger breath. I didn't know I could feel this way in this space.
Yeah.
When I went through a phase, I was really struggling with my mental health and well-being. I had red in my bedroom. It was so not supporting me. I had green, too much wood element, too many mirrors, too many shiny objects. I didn't know at the time what I know now, but it's so funny to look back. That space was not supporting me whatsoever.
Yeah. Okay, let's go back to a couple of rules of thumb. I understand there are some important areas of the house, but also I like the little tips,
Little
like the,
things.
the,
Okay.
the toilet seat down.
Toilet seat down.
What about what you told me about where you want to position a desk or a bed?
Oh, the command position. Okay, if you don't want to implement anything, this can be fun and really a powerful experiment. Always put your body in the command position. Now, I eat, sleep, and breathe feng shui, right? Everything I put on my body, everything I think about ingesting, I wear, my toenail color, to all my surroundings. Really, I eat, sleep, and breathe feng shui. Putting myself in the command position is just a hard thing I have to always stick with. I'm at a restaurant. I want a solid wall behind me. I'm working at my desk. I want that solid wall behind me. I'm relaxing on the sofa. I want to relax in a space where I have that solid wall behind me. So that solid wall behind you gives you a sense of protection and will let your shoulders drop, will let you feel more relaxed and more comfortable. The ancients saw this as, the solid mountain behind to protect them, but then a valley open so they could see their enemies coming. So we're kind of mimicking this same feeling. So you always want to have that solid wall, but then have a view in front. Don't be looking at a wall if you're at your desk. Right?
Let's use my husband as an example.
Yeah,
this was really interesting.
My gosh.
So I told you that we have this new business and we said that we're just pouring money into it. There's just been a lot of behind the scenes headaches, let's just say, a lot of stress. And I messaged Lisa and said, hey, can you, help? And she said, before we even do the whole consultation, your husband's got to move his desk around. And I was like, why? She's like, trust me. He needs to move the desk. He was facing the wall.
He wasn't even in there at the time.
Well, I forgot. He wasn't even using the office. I forgot. Wasn't even using the office. He was constantly working in the kitchen or on our deck. And I was always frustrated because one, I should be grateful that he's here. But two, if he's working in my sort of living space and he's stressed, even if he's not saying it, I can feel it. And on top of that, he has this amazing office he wasn't using. So I sent you a picture and they were just understandably just piles of paperwork everywhere. And I know that feeling where you're like, I don't even want to look at it.
Sure. And no wonder he was
didn't
avoiding
want to go in. Right? But when I sent you the picture, the first thing you said was, okay, let's adjust the office even with him not using it. And he'll want to be up here, but it's going to affect how he feels about his business. And I was like, all right, I trust you. And you said to move the desk around because not only was he looking at a wall, his back was facing a huge picture window.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And that was not putting his body in that command position to command, control, and feel empowered to run this business.
Yes, I remember you even saying if he faces the window, picture him having a clear path forward, a clear view of his life, of his business. And also you said, I'll never forget this, with his back to the window, it's almost like things are happening behind his back. And guess what, Lisa? They were. There were some things happening behind his back that he didn't know about. So we moved the desk around, pushed it all the way up to the window, tidied up the whole space, cleaned it, moved the couch where you told us to move it. We did everything you said. And before we even did the final cleaning, my husband didn't just go up there. He loves it up there. He is up there all the time. He's not just up there for work.
Wow.
Sometimes he's like, hey, I'm just going to chill out. And he'll go up there and he's just hanging out on his computer. He's got the TV on, watching a podcast and chilling out in there. He loves that space.
So
and
great.
He feels so good about the details with our business right now. He has a path forward.
That's amazing.
Obviously, you're not God. You weren't able to change the circumstances, but you 100% changed the way my husband felt about the circumstances.
Oh my gosh. Can we touch on the artwork too?
I'm telling you, yes.
I thought that was really interesting because you see one thing, I saw another. So sometimes we really have to look at the space with a different set of eyes. Sometimes I'll send my clients on a walk down the street, go walk and take some deep breaths, come back and walk up to your door and enter through your front door like you're a complete stranger. You've never been there. And what do you see? And it's hard. The other way to do this is to take photos of your space and then look at your photos because we see what we're so used to seeing and what's comfortable and the easy thing. It's like when you go to hotel. And you're like, look at the artwork, look at the carpeting. Oh, that's interesting, right? But we don't do that at our homes because we're just so used to it. So I want you to think about seeing it with a fresh set of eyes. So when I looked at your husband's office, he had this cool artwork, these two pieces of art. And I don't know if you want to explain them deeper.
Yeah, it's from Burning Man.
Mhm.
And I don't remember what it's called, but it's a giant, giant, giant sculpture. And it looks like kind of like wrought iron. And it's two adult people turned away from each other with their elbow on their knee and their fist to their chin, clearly like disconnected. And then their two inner children, the little child in one and the little child on the other, are wooden, and they are inside these cages and they are facing each other, trying to connect. So to us, it was a really positive, beautiful piece of art, reminding us of the inner child, reminding us that if we're ever disconnected or in a disagreement, it's really just two inner children trying to connect. And if you can do that, it changes everything. But tell them what you saw, considering what was going on with us.
Sure. I looked at it and I saw a man with his head in his hand, stressed, slumped over. I saw two images. So think of like multiplying that. It's double the energy of this stress, anxious, overworked, just looking at it, that's what I saw. So I'm like, we need to replace this with something empowering. So I loved it. I replaced it with a piece of art of you, a photo of Jill, which I thought was beautiful to add to his office. It makes him happy.
Well, here's what's interesting. It was already hanging in the office and you didn't even notice it because it was drowned out by everything else. It was on the other wall where he looked, his view from his desk, it was a little bit to the left of him, but you couldn't even see it or notice it. It was drowned out by all the
That's so wild.
clutter and stress. Yes. And I resisted a little when you told me to take the piece of art down. I was like, you have to understand, it is so important to him. And he loves it so much. He's the one who blew this up and had it made. And you said, can you please try it for 6 weeks? And I said, okay. And I said to him, you need to trust. So I took it down and moved things around, as you said, and he doesn't miss it at all. And then I found the perfect spot for it down in our basement.
Good.
It looks great where it is. But yeah, that was such a great lesson.
Oh
Such
my
a good
gosh.
lesson.
Just look at it with fresh eyes. I had a woman who I worked with years ago, and her husband had started a new business and he was working all the time. And she's like, I just feel so alone. And so we went into her bedroom and I looked, and she had this beautiful piece of artwork. It was a beautiful watercolor, but it was a woman all by herself.
Alone.
All alone. I mean, look at your artwork. Well, look at the symbolism. What is it saying? What is it telling back to you? What is it saying back to you? What are you absorbing?
That's so interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my goodness. Oh my gosh.
I think we could talk all day.
I know. I so badly want to get into the elements a little bit before we get into the space clearing. But just really quick explain, like with his office, you also said bring in some sort of a water element, whether it's a wavy pattern on fabric, something blue. And I happen to have this little tiny, maybe like 5 by 5 inch painting by a local artist. And it's blue, beautiful water with sailboats. And he loves boats. And you said, yes, that will do. But why?
Why? So the water element brings in fluidity, creativity, a little bit of flow, right? It was like, I'm trying to think of an analogy for just kind of had this energy of him like a bull ramming, a fence or something, right? Not going anywhere. That's the energy.
Yes. That is how he felt.
That's what I pictured in my head when I saw the head slumped over the artwork and the arrangement of the desk. And I'm like, oh gosh. So we just needed to get some flow, some movement happening. So a lot of people think when I talk about the 5 elements, they're like, oh, she's going to make me paint my walls green. She's going to make me paint my walls blue. No, sometimes it's small amount of color, also pattern and texture. So the fire element we can bring in through the triangular shape, right? If you look at a shape of a triangle, it kind of mimics the shape of fire or a flame. If you want to bring in a wood element, which brings in growth and renewal, vertical lines. If you don't love green, bring in vertical lines. Get a throw pillow with some vertical stripes or some artwork showing tall trees growing up high. You can also bring in plants, artwork of plants, a watercolor. I just got this really cool I wanted a water element and a wood element in this area of my home. So I got a really cool watercolor of these little succulent plants that are really cute. So you can do that. The metal element, I love the metal element in my office that helps with focus. This is like when you have a deadline, you need to focus on that metal element. I will wear gray for focus.
I was going to ask you, what is a metal, actually metal? Like
metal element or any type of metal, object, a desk lamp that's metal, or any type of pastel, gray, or white,
interesting.
which is where I'm wearing white so I can focus and think today. Also, circular shapes bring in that focus. So if you have a deadline, wear gray. Bring gray into your office space. The earth element, we've talked a bit about that. It's grounding, focus. It's grounding and getting stability and centered and feeling your feet on the earth when you're feeling frazzled. So beige, tan, brown, cream. If you were to dig down into the earth with a shovel, what colors would you see?
And this is why I recommend people working with you, because what you're saying is so interesting and we don't know what we're doing. So it's like, okay, well, where am I putting that element? Which room should have that element? Which room should have less of this element? It's really, to me, a science.
It is.
And you went through my whole house and it was so helpful and I'm still tweaking.
Yeah. And you will. And what's nice is when we do, the paperwork you got has your bagua laid out, has everything you need. So if you have a shift, right? Because our lives don't stay the same. You went from having all these kids in your house to now you're an empty nester to maybe you might have another goal or something else happen in your life and we need to tweak for whatever's happening in your space. But by having this information, you're also a step ahead. You can be like, oh, where I'm not feeling great right now. I'm struggling with a bug. Where's my health gua again? Where can I improve my home to improve my health, right? If my husband and I are bickering, I know where to go. I'll fluff up that area, give it a cleaning, give it some love, maybe intentionally put something in this space to symbolize, positive energy. And then that helps us get along better. It sounds so woo and weird, but it's so powerful.
One of my favorite things is anything that can't be explained by logic, reason, or science. I love that because So, okay, we got to talk before we finish about this clearing that you did. So here's what's so funny. In the world of what I would call woo-woo, spiritual coaches, spiritual gurus, the spiritual community, all the stuff you see on Instagram, a lot of these people wear what I would call costumes. They've got the beads on and they've got these certain outfits and they speak a certain way and it's fine, right? And I think it's so beautiful when I meet people like you who I would never look at you and say with your clean lines and your solid colors that you wear and your style of dress, right? I would never say, oh, I bet she can put herself into a trance and go into my house and find that I have crumbs under my rug. Like it was so cool. So I just got to tell you guys, if you don't do the whole feng shui assessment, I am telling you, if you do a space clearing with Lisa, you are going to say that was one of the best things I've ever done. And I have worked with a lot of people. I have worked with Violet Spirit Healer for 11 years. I've worked with Grandmother Shakenda in Mexico, who reads the fire, who channels the oracles. And these are I have a woman who I've worked with for 3 years who was hired by the founders of Google and companies like that to go sail in the Arctic and do breath work and mushrooms. Like I have access to some pretty amazing coaches and healers and people. I am freaking telling you, it's super affordable. You don't have to do anything. You leave your house and then for 2 hours, I don't know what she does. She somehow floats herself into your house. And then she gives you this whole explanation of what's going on in your home. So let's quickly talk about the clearing.
Yeah.
Like, what do you do? And you can tell them I'm an open book about my house and what you found.
Yeah. So these energetic space clearings are really powerful. I started doing these again 10 years ago, but they've morphed and transitioned as I've also grown intuitively, right? And I think it's funny, we talk about, you were mentioning the people that, you have to wear a certain thing. And I actually recently spoke to a gentleman and I told him what I did and he started laughing and he looked me up and down and I'm like, what? And he's like, oh, I thought you'd be wearing a hemp dress. And I'm like, I'm just your everyday gal, but I also can lean into this, magical, amazing spiritual world. And by doing these clearings, we can shift the energy of your home and reset. So I know you said you don't have to do anything. I will ask you if we work together too, which I asked you, clean and declutter. The more you can clean and declutter your home before any of this work, the better the work is, feng shui or a space clearing. But we want to rid our homes of crumbs, of dirt, of debris, of things that no longer serve us, and maybe that one powerful thing we need to get rid of. We move into then doing the space clearing. And I used to do these in person. It's very similar to when you would have someone, or maybe you would have a smudge stick and you go around with a white sage. I then started using sound tools because I could hear it. I'm not a musician, but I could hear, whether drumming or singing bowls around the spaces or bells, I could hear it. And it was really powerful. And then
You could hear what?
The sound when it was off, when it wasn't clear. And so you just keep playing the sound bowl. You keep ringing the bell as you're going through. My process involves 2 steps. It's clearing and then infusing. So when we're clearing, we're getting rid of stagnant energy. Everybody's like, oh, is my house haunted? No, not necessarily. We just have stuff. We go through life. We have days where we're down. We have instances in our life that bring on heavy emotions, feelings, anger, fighting. I do a lot of space clearings after divorce. A lot of things hang in homes. And so here's an example. Years ago, so it's kind of funny because today is my 16th wedding anniversary. But
Happy anniversary.
Thank you. Years ago, my husband and I, before we were married, we lived in a home. And we almost broke up like 3 times in this home. We just fought and could not get on the same page. It was new construction. I didn't know anything about this type of work at the time. We ended up moving. We hung on to the home as a rental property. And after that, we had 2 other couples live in the home for extended periods. Both of them got divorced in the home.
Oh my gosh.
It was my first taste. I'm like, something. I haven't been able to find anything about the property, the land, who knows? So things happen in our home. We bring things into our home. People who don't have necessarily good intentions, maybe a worker in your home. Maybe they just had a bad morning and they're in a foul mood, bringing that into your space. So always be mindful of anyone who's coming into your home. And so the stuff sits, stuff from anger, stuff from fighting, stuff from illnesses. It just sticks in there. So we have to clear it out. So we shake up the energy, we clear it out, and then we infuse it. So I always, again, ask, and I push people, what are your goals? What do you want? And we infuse the home with the energy you want. So I actually have transitioned over the years to doing these distance. And I know this is so out there for some people to wrap their head around. I completely understand. I actually use different tools and I set up an altar in my office. I have your floor plan. I pull cards. I pull stones. I sit and meditate for about 45 minutes before the clearing and just ask, whatever tools or symbolism we need to use for this clearing that, I just get that. And so we set it up. It's a beautiful ceremony. I tell you to go out and grab coffee or grab lunch while I'm doing it. Your pets can stay at home. I use a pendulum. And I clear the space. While I'm clearing, I get downloads, I get information, I get symbolism, and I take notes. So then I give you a report. Here's what happened. Well, I clear each room. I go and infuse each room with a different energy. And I do this a lot with new homes, people that are moving into new homes, because you don't know what happened there before. So we'll get some good information, maybe things that they need to know about the home. Sometimes it's, hey, go check that plumbing in the powder bath because there might be something funky going on here, or there might just be a heavy energy that was in a certain area. So I'll have them take a few extra steps to cleanse it. And then I always tell them to come home with a beautiful bouquet of flowers, a plant, some sort of symbolism to gift to your home. So it's a really beautiful process.
Okay. So tell them about mine.
Oh
First of all, I forgot to leave.
Which is hilarious because normally I'm not able to, it won't allow me to do the clearing.
Yeah. So I was here with my grandson. My husband was here, but he was out on the back deck. My grandson and I were in 2 spaces, the kitchen and living room, which are connected for the entire 2.5 hour span that I promised I would be out. And so she does the clearing and she's telling me about the whole house. And she's like, but I didn't really get much out of the kitchen and the living room. I was like, well, I didn't leave. And that's where I was. And she's like, I wondered, I kept trying to clear it and I just couldn't get anything. Mm-hmm. So we did a second one, thank goodness, where I left and you did those 2 areas.
Yes.
Let's share with them a few of the things as we close. That you picked up on. This is where you don't have to, I'm going to say it's not just your training. You do have gifts There are gifts that you have because the stuff you saw, you guys, she had never, ever, ever seen below our stairs in the basement. And she casually says, yeah, I feel like there was just some like heavier energy in some kind of closet below your stairs. And I'm not really sure why it felt so dark because there's just toys in there. And I was like, oh, how did you know there were toys in there?
Well,
Right?
I think your office was fun. We talked about this
Oh, yeah.
morning.
Let's talk about my office.
I had this vision of your sofa. It's this beautiful, bright fuchsia, but I kept seeing crumbs. I had this like vision of the sofa with crumbs. And I'm like, that's not Jill. She wouldn't leave crumbs around her house, right? I just don't understand. I kept thinking it was symbolic for something. I'm like, what does this mean? What does this mean?
And neither one of us could figure out what it meant. And I said to her, I'm telling you, it must be symbolic because we do not eat in there. I have never once eaten in there. No one's eats in my office. If you guys, on some of the past images for the show, I have that great wallpaper and it's that bright raspberry couch that I'm sitting on. That's the couch she's talking about. Well, a month or so later, someone helping me clean my house yesterday said, hey, when I cleaned your office, we're preparing for my retreat and someone's going to sleep in my office and I'm making it into a bedroom. And she said, when I was doing that deep clean, girl, what do you eat on your couch? And I said, what are you talking about? She was like, are you kidding? And this is where you guys, my jaw dropped. I just went, oh my God. She's like, there were so many crumbs. She used the word crumbs. Crumbs. I said, where? Underneath the cushions and between the cushions and the frame of the couch, Jill, there were so many crumbs, like food. And I said, you have to be kidding me. Like no one eats in there. Clearly someone has, either a little ghosty friend or a human, either one. But the fact that you saw that was fascinating to me.
Also, your front door was interesting. It had that illness. I had this sense of illness. Like sometimes I'll just get the sensation, right? It's like a choking or a
And you said older man
nauseous or something.
illness.
Yeah.
And there were two things to that. One, the one thing in my foyer I have is my grandfather's cigarette case, and he died of heart disease. The second thing is, and again, you guys, I'm going to lose some people when I say this, but I don't care. So grandmother Shikenda in Mexico, who reads the fire and channels the oracles, okay? I went to her about some things going on in my life. And I said, is there anything in my home? I'm going to be honest. I said, are there any like entities, any darkness, anything like that? I have women coming to stay in my home and I want that cleared out if there is. And she said, there's nothing like demonic, nothing scary, nothing. But there is the spirit of an older man with mental illness. And Lisa had said, I sensed like an old man who wasn't healthy, who wasn't well, with illness. And I do think it's connected. Sure. But if you're someone staying in my house next week, just so you know, we cleared all that out and he is gone.
Yeah. Also, you're at that back corner, the fire element, the wealth and abundance area that we talked about.
Yeah.
That was an area we really had to clear. And it was like trudging through mud.
It was.
Yeah. It was heavy. There's a lot. Also, your pantry had a lot of symbolism from your past that we kind of talked through. So, I put everything. I will put everything in your report. It might not mean anything. It might not even mean anything now. Maybe 6 months later, you'll be like, that's what that means.
Yeah. And you had me like put certain stones in different areas. I had little Rocco helping me in my husband's office. He put the little stones in every corner of his office. Great. We did everything you said. Amethyst at the front door. Yep, amethyst at the front door. And yesterday, I did the bookcases upstairs outside of the guest bedroom. I actually had Whitney, who does organization. She came, wiped it all down, and then perfectly organized all of our books and organized them by color. And another example, it wasn't just aesthetically pleasing. Energetically, it felt so different. Mm-hmm. So different.
Well, and that area is connected to, self-growth, knowledge, self-realization. So it's
Isn't it funny that I put a bookcase there, not knowing that?
That happens so often, though. People just naturally put things in certain areas, and it's kind of magical. So,
yeah, this has been so great. And I encourage everyone to find you and just book one of these clearings, and then you'll probably end up doing the whole Feng Shui assessment. It's fascinating. I'm still learning.
It gives us power over our lives. It's another way to infuse our home to support us.
It really does. And I know we've been chatting a while, but I have to add one more thing. I'm not someone who just tries to connect dots because I want everything to mean something. I really don't. I am certain that what you did on my home has affected us in such a positive way. For example, I told you in my goals, my main goal was my health. I haven't told the listeners all this yet, but I thought I was having menopause issues, and then I was having crazy amounts of swelling, which is called edema, in my legs to the point where I couldn't stand for very long, pitting edema, mushiness in my legs, really scary. I was like, do I have congestive heart failure? Like, do I have kidney cancer? Like, what is going on with me? And I was really concerned, but also miserable. And you did all the clearing. You did everything that you did. Then I implemented everything you told me to implement. And I walked into my pantry after that. And I was like, you know what? I have all these different protocols from these different practitioners who really do know what they're doing. And I've done so many of them, but I have a few more that I'm supposed to be doing. And I was taking like probably at least 30 capsules a day, at least 30 different supplements a day. And you guys, after she did this, I saw it very clearly. I walked into my pantry and I'm like, no, this doesn't symbolize health, having all these supplements in my pantry. It symbolizes illness. It symbolizes health issues. I'm not doing this anymore. I took every single supplement, okay? I put it in the cabinet, wiped everything down, and then I took each supplement one by one, held it to the center of my chest, closed my eyes, and I asked to my body, do you want and need this right now at this time? And my body fell either a little bit forward or a little bit backward, which gave me the answer, which by the way, guys, I didn't make that up. I mean, that's something practitioners use all over the world. You could use it for anything. We can talk about it another time. It was a clear yes for just 9 things and a clear no for probably 15 things, and then a neutral for another probably 15 things. And the yeses, you would have never guessed that combination of supplements.
Wow.
But I decided to listen to myself. The other thing was, as I was standing in that pantry, something said to me, you need to do a fast. And so I did a almost 48-hour, just with some bone broth at night, fast. And I did everything opposite of what I've been told. What I keep being told is a middle-aged woman, I need to get enough protein. I need to be eating all this protein. I need to be doing this. I'm under eating, so I need to eat enough. That actually works for most people. And that is scientifically backed. And I actually recommend it for most people. But I was told by my intuition, after you did all this clearing, I could see clearly, I probably will get to that, but right now I need to intuitively eat. Mm-hmm. So I went back to eating only when I'm hungry, only when I want to. I'm sure I'm quote unquote under eating, only taking the supplements that I have left there and taking them just when I want to. And 5 days later, all of my swelling was gone and I was 7 pounds lighter on the scale. So I was carrying 7 pounds of swelling.
Wow.
7 pounds.
Wow.
And it was gone 5 days later. It's unbelievable. I feel so different. I can't explain it to you.
Isn't it interesting how you see your spaces? You saw your pantry in a different light.
Yes.
Right?
It was a pharmacy. It had become a fracking pharmacy.
Well, what's funny, that's also your abundance area. So we talk about wealth and abundance, but it's also an abundance of supplements there.
Oh my goodness. Yes.
We could talk all day. I just worked with a woman who that's their wealth and abundance area, and it's a toy room. And I'm like, good luck. It's going to feel like you have 5 million toys in there if you have 5.
Wow.
So be mindful of that.
Yeah. So I've just seen so many things unfolding, and the clarity we have around our business, the decisions that we were able to make, and also that you did kind of kick things up and then they have to settle back down, which is always the way this kind of work works.
Something might get stirred up, but it's meant to be.
Mm-hmm.
It's meant to happen
some
that
things
way.
got stirred up and we saw some things very clearly that we weren't seeing. So thank you, first of all, for all the work you've done with me. Thank you for being on Be You Podcast. I know you're an avid listener and you love it, which makes me so happy. And tell them what your podcast is.
Oh yeah, I have a podcast called Feng Shui Living, Tips for Busy Women. And it's super fun. It's like 20, 25 minutes of easy tips that you can implement quickly, easily.
It's super good. And then tell them how to find you on Instagram, because you do video with your podcast and you have great reels. It's really good.
Yeah. So you can find me on YouTube. It's Feng Shui Living on YouTube. But then on Instagram, I'm at Pure Living with Lisa Morton. And my school is at Elevated Living School if you want to learn or train with me.
Oh, I love it. Thanks again, Lisa.
Thank you.